So take a look. It starts. So it starts on the bottom of Testament base. It starts on the bottom of 489b. Okay, fine. So it starts with the mission of Rabbi Shmuli. Rabbi Shmuli says, "Shalosh avonim zu b'tzad zu, b'tzad markulis asur." So there are three stones next to each other, which are next to markulis, which is a certain Avodah Zora, which is made out of stones. Markulis was an Avodah Zora, an idol that they made out of stones. It was usually constructed from two stones and then another stone on top, and they would serve it by throwing stones at it. So, if Rabbi Shmuel says if you find three stones next to each other near Markulis, they're forbidden. Can't get benefit from them. Ushtayim mutaros, but you find two, then it's permitted. The Gemara is going to ask why two is different than three. The Gemara is going to explain. Those that are together, that look like they're together with it, they're forbidden. But those that do not look like they fell, and they don't look like they were part of the Markulis, so then it's fine. Meaning, don't make a differentiation in numbers 2, 3. They say if it looks like it's part of the Markulis, then it's forbidden. If it doesn't, then it's fine. Doesn't make a difference about the numbers. So the Gemara says, Bishlam Rabbanon, we understand the Rabbanon makes sense. Kasavri, they hold. Ovdin the Shvarim, Niros Imo. I'm sorry, the Ovdin the Shvarim, they hold that people serve that which is broken off in Avodah Zora. So all these stones that were added onto Markulis, it means a bigger Avodah Zora, so now they fell off. So that's considered a broken Avodah Zora. So the Rabbanan hold that people serve that, like we were discussing that in the Gemara earlier yesterday. The Gemara that people serve that, and then it would be forbidden. So therefore, if it's seen with it, maybe it's close by, where you could say that fell from it, Asuros is forbidden. But those that are not apparent with it, those that don't seem to be part of it, they're far away, so they're going to be permitted. Rabbi Shmuel, what does he hold? He holds in the Shvarim, if people serve things that are broken off of Avodah Zora, even two should also be forbidden. He ain't over in the Shvarim, but if people do not serve that which is broken off, even 3 should not be forbidden. Where does this distinction between the numbers 3 and 2 come from? If people don't serve that which is brought off of that which breaks off in Avodah Zora, so then everything should be fine, even if it's 3. If people do serve it, then even 2 should be forbidden. So Chachamim's Gedar, that makes sense. Depends, does it look like it's from it or not? But Rabbi Shmuel's Gedar, he doesn't make that differentiation. His distinction is only based on the number. Why would the number make a difference? Do they serve it or not? So Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef, Amar Rav Yochanan, when it's known that the stones fell from it, everyone holds it's forbidden. Even the Mandamar opinion that says that people do not serve Shvarim, that which is broken up for Zara. That's only by an idol, that's not the normal way. Here, since the stones are not attached, they're originally broken, and it's the derech for it to fall. It's the normal course of action for it to fall. That's orche. That's a regular way of what occurs. So everyone therefore would agree that if the stones fell off the Markulis, that it's forbidden. Even if in general you say ain't over in the Shvar. People don't serve shards or broken pieces of Avodah Zora. The key pligi b'stama. They argue by stama. They argue by a case where it's where you don't know if it fell off. You don't know what the story of these stones are. So when it's close by, where you could say you could say that from it fell, So everyone also agrees. Everyone agrees that it's forbidden. Rashi over here explains the Mekuravos, when it's close by, that means if it's within an amma or half an amma. So then if that over there, then it's for sure it's meaning al it definitely fell from it. And therefore everyone agrees it's forbidden. Ki pligi b'meruchakos. When do they argue? They argue when it's farther, when it's far away. Far away over here means that it's still within the dalat amos, it's within 4 amos, but it's farther away that it's not clear that it fell from it. So the Gemara says, 1 second. You're telling me keep pligi. You're telling me when do they argue? They argue when it's distanced, when it's past an amma, within 4 amma range. But bitzad markulis ketani. But we say bitzad markulis. If you find the stones that is next to markulis, that implies that it's next to it, not that it's far away from the markulis. It sounds like it's next to the markulis. Like we said, that it's bitzad markulis. So how could we say is that but it's really over an amma away? Right there, it's bitzad, it's next to it. Gemara says, my bitzad, what does bitzad mean? Bitzad arba amos. Bitzad means within its dalat amos, it means within its 4 amos. That's what bitzad means. So fine. So again, we're stating that if you knew that the stones fell from the markulis, definitely forbidden. But it's close by, also everyone agrees forbidden. They're arguing when it's distanced. So Rabbanan Savri, Ein Osin Markulis, Kata Mitzad Markulis, Gadol. Sorry, I skipped. Rabbi Shmuli Savra Osin Markulis, Kata Mitzad Markulis, Kata. Rabbi Shmuli holds people make a small miniature Markulis next to the large Markulis. So Shalosh Dadamil Markulis Asuros, 3 stones, just similar to Markulis. Markulis, the basic Markulis is 3 stones. So there are 3 stones which are similar to Markulis. So then that would be forbidden. We have to be afraid that maybe this is the small markulis. But 2 is permitted because 2 is not a markulis. People don't make a miniature markulis next to a large, full-size, life-size markulis. So therefore, it doesn't make a difference whether it's 3 or 2. Either way, if it's seen with it, it's forbidden. It looks like it's part of it. It looks like it fell from it, then it's forbidden. But those which are not seen with it, meaning that they don't seem like they're from it. Doesn't look like they fell from it. So then it would be permitted. So we're boiling down the machlokas to when basically this idea: do people make a small markulis by a miniature markulis by a large one? Rabbi Shmuli says yes, and that's only if it's 3. 3 is where that looks like the small markulis, whereas the Rabbanan say no, and therefore it depends about whether it looks like it fell from it or not. Okay, Amar Mar. So Master said we're going to reference something we just said before, just that when it's known that it fell from it, divrei akol asuros. Everyone says that it's forbidden, as you were saying before. If you knew that these stones fell from the markulis, everyone agrees it's forbidden. So Gemara says, Ramini. Well, that's a contradiction. Stones which fell off, they got detached from markulis. Nirosimo asuros, nirosimo mutaros. If they are seen with them, meaning if it's apparent, it looks like if they fell from it, then it's forbidden. But if they don't look like that, then it's permitted. Rabbi Shmuel says 3 are forbidden and 2 are permitted. Always. So meaning this brisa is a case of nashru. It's a case of avonim nashru that they fell off. I mean, it sounds like it's like we were talking about before, be a duash nashru. But we were saying that everyone agrees it's forbidden in this type of case. Over here, the Rabbanan say the same guideline about whether it's seen with it and looks like it's part of it or not. Right. So this seems to be a contradiction. So the Gemara says, Amar Rava lo tema shenashru ela ema shenimtzu. I'm sorry. Don't say the cases shenishru. Don't say the cases where they fell off. Rather, the cases shenimtzu. They found it. They don't know the status of these stones. They found it by the markulas. It wasn't nashru, it didn't fall off. They just found it there. So the Gemara says, the Savar Rabbi Shmul Shtayim Mutaros. Does Rabbi Shmul hold that two are permitted? But Tanya, Basana Raisa, Shmul Omer, Shmul says Shtayim Bitfisa Lo Asuros, Shalosh Avilim Ruchakos Asuros. Shmuel says that two stones, which are Bitfisa Lo, which means that that's a way of depicting. Rashi explains that stam tfisa, a tfisa means within your reach, which means it's 4 amos. So it's within 4 amos, it's forbidden. Shalosh, if it's 3, apilim ruchakos asuros. Even if it's farther than that, it's forbidden. So the Gemara is asking is that we were saying that the Mishnah seems to be saying Rishmal says it's 2 stones, that's totally permitted. But this Brisa tells us if there's 2 stones, but they're within 4 amos of the markulas, that's forbidden. So that's a contradiction. Rabbi Shmul sounds like he's saying 2 are permitted always. But yet over here we're saying that if it's within 4 amos, then it's really forbidden. So Amarava lo kasha can't betfisa achas can b'shtei tfisos. When is this Brisa talking? Saying that within a tfisa, within a person's reach, it's forbidden by 2 stones. That's b'tfisa achas. That's by one reach, meaning that there's no separation. There's nothing blocking the stones in the markulas. And then everyone would agree that within 4 amos, that's everyone agree with Shmuel, the Rabban, everyone's on the same team. That's considered nirosimo. That's considered that looks like it's part of it. And everyone would say it's forbidden. So when is the machlokas? The machlokas is only when there's 3 stones which are far. But when do we say that Rabbi Shmuel says that 2 stones are always permitted? And right earlier we were saying that the machlokas between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbanan is when it's within 4 amos, but it's not right next to it. The Rabbanan say if it's near Usimo, then that's forbidden. But if it's not near Usimo, then it's permitted. Or as Rishmal says, it depends if it's 2 or 3. So that sounds like 2 is always fine, even if it's not 3. So when's that true? That's when shtei tfisos. That's when it's 2 reaches, which means that there's something in between. There's something blocking. It's a separation. Where is that? What is the scenario of that? You could go beni. There's something of height blocking in between. Like Rashi explains, there's a mound of dirt in between the markulis and the stone. So that's considered mufakos. That's considered distanced, even though it's within 4 amos, because you can't say that it fell from it. In general, if it's within 4 amos, we're going to assume that it fell from it. But you can't say it fell from it because there's a separation. So Rabbi Shmuel says that 2 are permitted, but 3 are forbidden because people make a small markulis, they make a miniature markulis by a larger markulis, by the full-size markulis. Therefore, even though definitely didn't fall from it, if it's 3, that could be a person, that could be that the person's trying to make it into a small miniature markulis, and therefore be forbidden. Whereas I want to say no, people don't do that, and therefore it just does it look like it came from it or not? Does it look like it was used to be serving with it or not? So the Gemara says, "Markulis ki agavna mi have." The Gemara has a new question now. Rabbi Shimon was talking about 3 stones next to each other. Shlosha avanim zu b'tzad zu. We're trying to explain that the reasoning for Rabbi Shimon is because he holds that people make a small markulis by a large markulis. So the Gemara is asking that 1 second. People make markulis in this setup of 3 next to each other. These are the stones of base kulis. Achas mikan, 1 here and 1 here, meaning 2 next to each other, parallel, ground level. Achas like a beam, 1 on top. It's like a triangle, 2 stones and 1 on top. That's what markulis is. So how could the Mishnah be? If the understanding of Shmuel really is that people make a small markulis near the large markulis, and But this doesn't. But he's still saying 3 stones next to each other are forbidden, but that doesn't look like a markulis. Markulis is when it's stacked. So Rava said, Ki Tadyahi, when was that Brisa taught? That Brisa taught was Be'ikr Markulis. This is some of the Ikr Markulis, the main one, the main attraction. That is only made in this way of stacking, 2 and then 1. However, the small Markulis, which we're talking about, the miniature in front, that people make in all ways, and they order the stones in always on configuration, and therefore it doesn't make a difference that's stacked in the proper markulis way of the 2 stones and 1 stone on top. Rather, it's forbidden no matter what, because people make any configuration when it comes to the small markulis. People aren't so makbid about that. People that aren't doing the main Avodah Zora, they're very makbid about how to configure it. The small one doesn't really make so much of a difference, and therefore that's why Rabbi Shmuli says that we always have to be concerned, even when it's 3 stones next to each other. It's not configured like the regular markulis, that it might be part of it, and therefore it be forbidden. Okay. So Gemara says, Beyane Malkachoru. The kingdom of Beyane was destroyed. I guess their palace was destroyed. So what happened? Also Avodah Kochavim, not idol worshippers came. Okimu be markulis. They used the stones, came from the palace, to build a markulis. Also Avodah Kochavim Achrini the low pach in the markulis. Other idol worshippers came that didn't serve markulis. Shakalinu, they took the stones. They said, okay, we don't care about these stones. We don't serve markulis. These we serve other idols. Shakalinu, so they took it. They covered with it. They used it to pave roads and highways. So they used it for public use, these stones. So the question is that could you get benefit from these roads? Because you can't get benefit from something served as an idol. So what's the story with these roads? So Ikra Rabban de Parshi, Ikra Rabban de Lo Parshi. There were certain Rabbanon, there were certain rabbis that separated. They made sure not to get any benefit from it. There's certain ones that said, no, it's fine. Amar Rav Yochanan said, "Benon shel kadoshim mahalach aleim ba'anan nifrosh miyam." The sons of the holy ones. This is what it literally means. They walk on it, and we're going to separate ourselves from it. We're not going to be more from. We're not going to be more machmir, be more stringent than even the bnei kadoshim, the people, the sons of the holy ones. They're not makbid. They go and they walk on it. So we're not going to now decide that but we're too from we can't do it because these great rabbis did it. What are you about to say?
So the sons of the holy ones were also idol worshippers.
No, they're rabbis. Great rabbis.
The sons were okay. So I'm confused with
yeah.
We should avoid them. Okay.
So what Rabbi Yochanan is saying is if they do it, then we should avoid it. I mean, and rhetorically, if they do it, then we're fine. It's like saying, like if your rabbi does something, so then if he does it, then I could do it too. That's it. Right? So Manu Benan Shal Kedoshim, who are the sons of the holy ones? So who's that referring to? So it says Reb Menachem Reb Simoi. It's referring to Reb Menachem Reb Simoi. But my Kollel Benan Shal Kedoshim. Why do you call him the son of the holy ones? That filu b'tzorta dezuzol mistakel. He didn't even look at the image on a coin, meaning that there's an issue in the Torah. There's a problem in the Torah of looking at molten images, looking at images of Avodah Zora. Those explains over here that when it comes to like an image on a coin, where everyone's accustomed to see it constantly, it could be that that's not called like turning toward idols. The words of the pasuk that you can turn toward idols. So based on the literal understanding of the pasuk, and really the halacha really is fine to look at the pictures which are on the coin. That's fine. That's not called turning toward the idols. However, he was careful and he didn't even do that. So he was very machmir, and even so, despite the fact that he was machmir, still he felt okay, he felt comfortable walking on these roads. So too we could copy what he did. We could walk on the roads. So Gemara says, "My time of demand parish. What's the reasoning for the one who separated, who made sure not to get any benefit from the roads? He held like that which Rav Gidol said the name of Rav Chia Bar Yosef within the name of Rav. Where do we know that something that was used to serve an idol can never become bottled? They served Baal Pa'or, Baal Pa'or, famous idol in the Torah. But they ate the sacrifices of the dead. So the Gemara makes a drasha, just like something which is dead can never become bottled. So to something brought for idol worship has no bittul forever. So they over here it's a little bit interesting about that we're classifying these stones as being a takrobes, meaning an idol in and of itself does have bittul, like we've discussed before many times about the idea of bittul by a regular idol. Mm-hmm. The idea is over here is that takrobes means something that's used to serve it. So then that there's no bittul for that. The fact that it was used to serve an idol, that makes it forbidden to get benefit from forever. So we're saying that these stones are considered takrobes because the way that they would serve the markulis was through throwing stones at it. So we're assuming that these stones were from the ones that were thrown at it. Therefore, it's takrobes it's that which is used to serve an idol, and there's no bittul for that. So therefore, I'm sorry, but you can't use the roads because since it was used to serve an Avodah Zora, so then the fact even though it was made into a road, that's not called bittul. Mandalo Parish, the one who didn't separate, Amar Ba'inaki in Panavaleka. He said that no, we need it that has to be similar to that which is done inside the Beis HaMikdash. Meaning that the Torah says, which means that if someone slaughters to another god, he should be put in cherib, unless it's to Hashem. So the Torah seemed to compare that the service done to Hashem, saying you can't serve other idols, you can only serve Hashem. So it sounds like that service was done for Hashem, that's what you're doing for idols, and that's problematic. So that which is served in the Beis HaMikdash, if you do that to serve idols, the methods of serving in the Beis HaMikdash use that to serve idols. So that's where it's going to be that it's bottled. It can never become bottled forever. However, if it's served in a way that's not in the Beis HaMikdash, this idol has its own unique way of serving it that you don't use this method to serve Hashem. So then there really could be bittul. It's not going to be not bottled forever. So over here, where you throw the way of serving Markos through throwing stones, and obviously there's no procedure in the Beis HaMikdash done that involves throwing stones. It doesn't.
Just tomatoes. No, it's
tomatoes. A sorghum. They used to throw a sorghum because if the Mishnah Sukkah says that if the Kohen who was doing the Nisei Chamayim, he did in the way of the Tzedukim, of the people who didn't believe in the oral Torah. Right. So then people would take all they start bombing him with their sorghum, chucking at it. Yeah. So again, we're explaining this machlokas as the people who separated that was because they said this is takrobes avodas bilchavim. This is something used to serve idols, and that doesn't have bittul, like Rabbi Gidol says. Or so it didn't separate. It says no, that's only if it's similar to that which is on the Beis HaMikdash, like the Torah indicates that when we say that something is forbidden if it's used for idol worship, that's when it's similar to service which is done on the Beis HaMikdash. But here it's not, so therefore it's fine. Okay, so more goes further. Rabbi Yosef Bar said, "Ikla Rabbi Bar Yirmiyah La'asrin." Rabbi Bar Yirmiyah came to a place. But also, Vaisim as Nisbiyode, he came and brought a bryce in his hand. Obi Kocham Shevi Abonim Ramakulis. A non-Jew brings stones from a markulis. The chipa ben drachim and tartios. He uses it for roads and highways. Same case we were talking about before. Mutaros. It's permitted. That constitutes as bittul. The fact that the guy built it into the road, so that's bittul. Yisrael shevi avanim markulis. But a Jew brings stones from markulis. V'chipa ben drachim and tartios, and he uses it to pave roads and highways. Asurus is forbidden. Because in general, we see that Jews cannot be mevatel. Only a non-Jew can be mevatel. So Gemara says, so I'm sorry, this is still Rabbi Yosef Rabba talking. He says, "V'las nagar v'lo bar nagar di'ifrkine." There is nor a nagar. Rashi explains as a chacham, someone who's wise. There's nor someone who's wise. V'lo bar nagar, neither nor the son of someone who's wise, di'ifrkine, who could answer this price. He was bothered by something on this price. We don't know what it is. We're going to see soon. But he's saying that this problem, there's no one who can answer. So Amar Avsheshes, I know lo nagar, I know lo bar nagar, I know. I am not a chacham. I'm not someone who's wise. I'm not someone who's the son of someone who's wise. But still, I can still answer it. So the Gemara says, my kushale, what was his question? What was he bothered by? He was bothered by Rav Gidol. He's bothered by Rav Gidol's statement, meaning Rav Gidol's statement, which you saw before. Is takrova something used to serve idols can never become batel. So what? So he was bothered by Rav Gidol that if so, why is the halacha of this brisa that if stones are used to pave the roads, then that's fine. But I thought that something when these rocks are used, these stones are used to serve the markolas, and I thought something used to serve an idol can never be repurposed. Can never. There's no betel. So that was his question, and that's why he was saying less nagar lo bar nagar. There's no one who could answer this. And then Rav Shesha said back that Be'ina came upon Veleka that know that the reason why it's fine and Rav Gidol doesn't apply is because Rav Gidol only applies when it's similar to a method of serving Hashem in the Beis Hamikdash, and this is not. This is just his own unique way of serving the markolas, and therefore it's fine. It's permitted. Okay. Amar Rav Yosef Bar Abba Ikla Rabbi Bar Yomi La'asrim also v'Aisim Nasnisim B'Yodei. Rav Yosef Bar Abba said, Rabbi Bar Yomi came to our place where we live, and he brought a brisa in his hand. So this is not related really to Avodah Zora, but it's the same, just like before, which was related to Avodah Zora. We quoted Rav Yosef Bar Abba, him saying a statement with something about Rabbi Yirmiyah coming and bringing a brisa and asking a question. So we're going to bring another thing like this. So he says that Rabbi Yirmiyah came, he brought this brisa, maslin u'mizam b'Shabbos. You could remove worms from a tree. B'Shvius, I'm sorry. U'mizamin means that they would take some sort of like Ryan Zevel, and they would tie it to a tree so it shouldn't die. Now, when a tree had some sort of problem and the bark starts coming off, so what they would do is they would put this fertilizer on it, this rancid fertilizer, and that would help it.
Should they pick worms from the tree or kill them by smoking?
Sounds cool.
Yeah, that's weird.
So we're saying you could do that during Shemitah. No, of course we know that during Shemitah you can't work the field. You could do these things during Shemitah. You can't take worms off of a tree, and you can't try to revive a tree through putting on the rancid fertilizer during the moed, during a holiday. Kan v'kan in megazmin. During both Shemitah and during a holiday, you can't be megazmin, which means that you cut off a big branch. So in a way that you're trying to cause other branches to sprout from there, more branches sprout from that stump of a branch you just created in the future. If something's already cut previously, you could put oil on it, could rub oil on it, whether it's a holiday, whether it's a moed, or whether it's Shemitah. The idea of rubbing the oil on it is so that the tree doesn't die. That when you cut this big branch, it still keeps it moist. So that you're allowed to do. So he said, "There's nor a chacham, there's nor someone who's wise, or someone who's the son of someone who's wise who can answer it." Same thing as before. Then Amar Ravina said that I know lo nagar, I know lo bar nagar, I know I am nor a wise person, nor the son of someone who's wise. I can answer anyways. So fine. So again, it's very vague. He seems to be bothered by something. He's saying no one can answer it. He's saying no, I can answer it. So Gemara wants to figure out what is the question. What was he bothered by? He just said, "Oh, no one can answer this price." What was the question? So Micah Kashale, what was he bothered by? If he was bothered by moed onto Shvius, Then what's the difference that by Shemitah you're allowed to take off the worms and you're allowed to put on the rancid fertilizer to help it, as opposed to by the Moed and Yom Tov you can? If that was their problem, Maishna Shvius to Shari, Maishna Moed also, right? So then Midami. So the Gemara is saying is that if the question was what's the difference between Shemitah that's permitted and Moed, the holiday is forbidden, but Midami says it's similar at all. Shvius Malacha Asarachman. During Shemitah, the Torah asked, the Torah forbade work in the field. Tirchashari, but putting in effort, putting in toil, that's fine. That's permitted. But Moed, during our holidays, if you look Tirchanami also, even if it's not real work, but if you, as long as you're toiling, that's forbidden. Meaning, by Shemitah, you can't do something to try to improve the field. But we are not improving the field, just maintaining the status quo. Just maintaining, if there's worms in the tree, that's bad, but that's very unhealthy for the tree. If the tree's dying, you're trying to make it healthy again. You're not going out of your way to improve the quality of it. You're just trying to make it and maintain. It stays status quo. So that's really fine. But that's fine because the only prohibition during Shemitah is to work the field further. But during the Moed, the prohibition is not just to make the field, to work the field. Prohibition is that you can't do any sort of toil during a holiday. You can't do any work. So even though you're just trying to maintain the status quo of the field, you're still doing work, still toiling. And then,
holiday, including the Moed?
Including Kol Moed, yeah. So Tosas actually says that mean that we have to be talking about a case where it's not Davar Albi. Kol Moed has a lot of interesting halachas, which is that the starting point of Kol Moed is that it's forbidden to do Moed. That's the starting point. There are a lot of exceptions.
Right. That's
so one of the exceptions is Davar Albi, which means if it's going to be lost if I don't do the malacha, then I could do it during Kol Moed. So Tosas says that even though the quality of the trees is being affected, has to be a sort of middle level that's not considered Davar. It's not considered Davar Albi, meaning that if I wait to take out the worms off the tree till after Yom Tov, it wouldn't negatively affect the tree. Or if I wait to help revive the tree and through putting the zevel on it, that could wait after Yom Tov equally. It's not making it worse off the fact I'm not doing it this second. But if it was, then it would be Davar Albi and it would be fine. So you're saying is an excellent point. So
isn't the difference in Shemitah that prohibition is against the field?
Can work the field, right?
Whereas for the Moed, it's against the work itself.
Right, that's the distinction the Gemara is making. Right, that is that distinction. That's why. There's no question. Of course, it makes sense why it's forbidden during Moed, but it's permitted during Shemitah. So Gemara says Belaziyom agizim kakasha. So rather, we'll say it's a question from zihum, putting the fertilizer on the tree to help revive it, onto gizum, which is cutting off the branch, which is forbidden. So that's our question. Ma'ashan ziyum deshari. What's the difference between ziyum that is permitted? Ma'ashan gizum dalser. What's the reason that gizum, in cutting off the branch, is forbidden? Why is one permitted and one's forbidden? So maybe that's the question. So Gemara says, "Mi dami, is this similar?" Ziyum okumi ilana bishari gizum avruye ilana of aser. That ziyum, putting on the fertilizer, that's okumi ilana. That's maintaining the tree. That's maintenance. So that's what's permitted. But gizum is not just maintenance, but rather it's avruyebam. You're trying to improve the tree, and therefore it's forbidden. So that can't be the question. There's a clear distinction. It's clearly different. So Gemara says, "Ve'ela ziyum aziyum kakashale." Rather, we have a question from Ziyum, putting the rancid fertilizer on the tree to help revive it, onto a similar case. That's our stira. Diktani. Our brisa says, Maslin umizamin b'shvius. You could take worms off a tree, and you could be mizayim. You could put on this fertilizer during Shemitah. Or minias, the contradiction, mizamin esenatiyos, that you could try to revive saplings through this method of putting on the fertilizer. The korkanosa, you can wrap it. The kotminosa, I'm not sure what that means. Someone maybe help me out what kotminosa means. Okay. Put ash on it. Okay, so I guess that helps. Osel and batten.
That's wrapped it.
Korkanosa means to wrap it. Saying whereas kotman means to. brash. Kiva osalam batim, and you should make houses for it. And you should make like a fence around it and fill it up with dirt. Umashkinos, and you could give it water at Rosh Hashanah until Rosh Hashanah, and until Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah. So Gemara says at Rosh Hashanah, until Rosh Hashanah that you could do. But B'Shvi low. This price is saying you could do it until Rosh Hashanah, which means that after Rosh Hashanah it's actually Shemitah. You can't do it anymore. Whereas our price is saying it's fine to do Zihum. It's fine to do it during Shemitah. So what Rashi adds in over here is that when we're saying until Rosh Hashanah, in general, even the year before Shemitah, there's a rabbinic prohibition to do work on the field starting 30 days before. 30 days before Tishrei. But Rashi explains that over here, since only a rabbinic decree, so the rabbis do not make their decree when it comes to something like this, which is maintaining the tree. So you can do it until Rosh Hashanah. Once Rosh Hashanah hits, now it's Shemitah. You can't do it anymore. So that's a stira. So let's say that's the question. So Gemara says, but Vidilma could Rav Ukva Bar Chama. Maybe it's not a good contradiction because it's like Rav Ukva Bar Chama. So Amar Rav Ukva Bar Chama. Rav Ukva Bar Chama said, Trei Kashkushe Habu. There were two types of hoeings, where there's two types of ditches underneath olive trees. This is by somewhere else. Ukva didn't talk here. We're just borrowing the statement he said in a different context. So Chalad Ruye Ilona Vaser. The Chalad Stumi Piri Vishari. One was to improve the tree, and that's forbidden. But one's just Lastumi Pili, meaning just to cover up the roots. That if the roots got uncovered, these ditches were used to cover it. So those are permitted. So Hakanami Treze Mumiyabe. There are two types of ziyom. Chala Kume Ilone. One is to maintain the tree, and that's permitted because you're not trying to improve the tree, it's trying to maintain it, try to keep it healthy. The Chala Vriya Ilana, but one is to improve it, but also that's forbidden. So our Bryce which says it's fine, that's talking about maintaining. The other Bryce which says you can only do it until Rosh Hashanah, that's talking about trying to improve. And therefore, that's why it's forbidden. So the Gemara says, the Ella Sikha Kakashale. So rather, what's this question? What was he bothered by? Let's say he was bothered by Sikha onto Sikha, the rubbing the oil onto a different case of rubbing the oil. Diktani our Bryce says Sachan Shemen Legozum Bimimo Bimishvias. You could rub oil, you could anoint oil onto this area, which was a branch was cut off, whether during the Moed, whether during the holiday or whether during Shemitah. That's what we said. That's fine. It's not considered malacha. Or mini, that's a contradiction. That you could rub the hagin, which are a type of grapes, type of like unripe grapes. I'm sorry, we're talking about figs, type of unripe figs. So you could rub it in oil, so that they end up being fat, and you could put holes in it and fatten them until Rosh Hashanah. Ad Rosh Hashanah is low. So until Rosh Hashanah, that's what's permitted. Until Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah, that's permitted. During Shemitah, it's forbidden. So our Bryce is saying that Sikha, rubbing oil onto plants, is permitted during Shemitah, but this one's saying that it's only permitted until Rosh Hashanah. But once Rosh Hashanah hits in Shemitah, it's forbidden. So Gemara says, "Me dummy." Is it similar? Over here, maintaining a tree, and to maintain the tree, that's fine, that's permitted. But there, you're not just maintaining a tree. Over there, you're trying to fan the fruit, trying to make the fruit better. So that's problematic. Not just maintaining the health of the tree, you're trying to make the food better, and therefore that would be a problem during Shemitah. Therefore, it's not a stira. So that can't be the question. So Amalei Rav Sam Rav Ashi Rav Yina Bar Yirmiyah. Rav Samuel, the son of Rav Ashi, he said to Rav Yina Bar Yirmiyah, Sicha demoid aziyum demoid kakacha. You know what his question was? His question was from the rubbing the oil, the sicha, onto ziyum, onto the case of where you put on the fertilizer, both during moed, both during the holiday. That's where his steer was. It says Mifti, hayokume v'hayokume. Both processes are trying to maintain the tree. So Ma'ishna Aidashari, Ma'ishna Haida Aser. What's the difference that one's permitted and one's forbidden? Why is it true that sicha is permitted, but the ziyum is prohibited. What's the difference that one's per month forbidden? So that's where he answered and said that. And I'm sorry, that's where he said that there's no one who can answer this question. Okay. So at the end of the day, we're saying the question is that even though the Brisa really says that the Brisa says that ziyum is problematic during the moed. You're not allowed to do it during the moed. You can't try to revive the tree through putting on the fertilizer during moed, but you could do sicha during the moed. So why is one prohibited and one's permitted? That was what he's bothered by, and that's what he's saying that he can't figure out how to answer the question.
How do we end up?
How did we end up?
We don't know.
We end up we know what his question was.
Yeah.
We know that his question was not that he was bothered by, the difference between any of these outside brises, and we know that he wasn't bothered by what's the difference between Shemitah and the Moed because they have two different standards. Shemitah is just meant to work the field. Moed is an intrinsic isser in doing work.
Okay.
But he's bothered by just the difference in the halacha by Moed.
Mm-hmm.
Why is anointing the stump with oil permitted, whereas putting on the fertilizer that's forbidden? We're both trying to maintain the tree. So that's why you're saying that he doesn't know how to answer. So we end up. Okay, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. These are the name of Rav. Avodas kocham she'ovdim also b'makal shavar b'makal. I'm sorry, an idol which is served with a stick. Shavar makal b'fanei chayiv. Person breaks a stick in front of it, he's chayiv. Zorak makal b'fanei pater. If he throws a stick in front of it, he's pater. He's exempt. That's not considered serving it. So Amalei Abai the Rava. Abai said to Rava, Ma'ishno shavar. What's the difference between when he breaks it? That's looks like slaughtering. Zark nami avale kein zrika. He throws it's like zrika. It's like the sprinkling. It's like the throwing the blood. Meaning, just to give background, there's two types of serving an idol. There's serving an idol in a way that's not usually served.
Okay.
But if you're serving in a way that's not normally served, but this service is done in the Beis Hamikdash, that makes it your chayiv. That's an avera. That's serving. That's considered idol worship. Something which is not done in the Beis Hamikdash, but it's the normal way to serve the idol, so that's also the same thing. Your chayiv. If it's not the normal way to serve the idol, and it wasn't done in the Beis Hamikdash, then you're pater. So over here, one second. So here we're saying is that we're talking about a case where they didn't serve the idol for breaking the stick. But we're saying they served the idol with the stick. They didn't serve it through breaking a stick. The way they would serve it was through, let's say, shaking a stick in front of it. Now you broke a stick in front of it. So Abai wants to say is that the reason why we're saying if you broke it, you're still chayiv, even though this is not the normal way of serving it. The only way would be make you chayiv if it's not the normal way of serving the idol is if this is something done in the temple, something done in the Beis Hamikdash. So what was done like this in the Beis Hamikdash? The answer is shchita. Because when you're breaking a stick, the same way you checked an animal in the Beis Hamikdash, so the way you would serve this idol is with a stick. So even though the exact method is not through breaking it, when you would break the stick, which has hashivos, which is distinguished in terms of this idol, so then when you break it, that's like shchita. It's kein zvicha. So Abai is asking that so too when it comes to throwing the stick. I'm sorry, you should also be obligated if you did that because that should be similar to the zrika in the Beis Hamikdash when you throw the blood, when you sprinkle the blood. So what's the difference? She says, "Amalei be'ina zrika to mishtaberes v'leika." What was the back? We need zrika, we need sprinkling, which it's broken, meaning that it's like when they sprinkle blood, it would fall in droplets. But when you throw one entity, so then that's not similar to that which is done in the Beis Hamikdash. So Gemara goes further. Gemara says, "Eisvei." I'll ask the question. The person gave the Avodah Zora, gave the idol soa, which is excrement. He poured in front of it a pitcher filled with urine. Chayiv, he's chayiv. So bishlama of it, shalmei reglaim, ikas rika mishtaveres. Gemara says these things are not the normal way of serving idols. So why would you be chayiv? Must be that by the avid shalmei reglaim, by the urine, you could that makes sense because it's rika mishtaveres. It's similar to the sprinkling of the blood in the base of mikdash, and it's like droplets. It's exactly similar. But so excrement is solid. There's no zrika mishtaveres. It's not broken. It's solid. And even so, we're saying it's forbidden. So that means that it doesn't have to be mishtaveres. It doesn't have to break. It's just if it's any zrika, it's forbidden. And therefore, coming back to our case with a stick, that should be also, you should be chayiv also. You should be obligated as well if you did it for idol worship. So Gemara says, but so alecha, we're talking about when it's wet. And since it's wet, then therefore it could fall as droplets. Okay. Now the Gemara says, Leiman katanoi. Let's say that this statement of Rab, where he was saying that an idol which is served, you serve with a stick, you break it, you're chayiv, throw it, you're potter. Let's say that this Rab is a machlokas tanoim. Shachah from this price. Shachah lachagav. If a person slaughters a grasshopper for idol worship, Rabbi Yehuda says you're chayiv. V'cham potem v'cham seir potter. So my lab is it not that they're arguing about this? The Mar Savam Rinan Kain's Bicha. The one who says you're chayiv says, do you know why you're chayiv? Because it's similar to slaughtering. Even though, of course, there were no grasshopper offerings in the base of Mikdash. But when you're slaughtering, that's similar to the method done in the base of Mikdash, and therefore you're chayiv if you did it. We don't say that, if it looks like an action done in the base of Mikdash, then you're chayiv. Rather, we say it has to be like that which is done in the base of Mikdash. It has to actually be an action done there. Not just if it looks like that action. It has to be that action. So maybe that's the machlokas. So Rab would be like the Tanakama. Rab saying as long as it looks like it, there's no service breaking a stick in the base of Mikdash, but it looks like shchita. So Rab would be like the Tanakama. Zimar says, look, everyone says that we don't need that we don't say Kain Zvicha. We don't say that it just has to look like the service. We actually need to be like the actual service done. The grasshopper is different because its neck is similar to the neck of an animal. And therefore Rabbi Yehuda said that you're chayiv because that's like the shechita done in the base of Mikdash. It's not just a different action that has some similarity. It is the same action. It just happens to not be done with the same animal, but it's the same action. Because a grasshopper's neck is similar to an animal's neck, and therefore that's why you're chayiv if you did it. But really, in general, if it's just ke'ein zvicha, it's just something along the same line, same concept, like the same way that they would check the animal, then also so breaking a stick is along the same lines. So no, that's ke'ein zvicha. That's not ke'ein panim. And therefore, you're potter if you did such a thing. But it's only forbidden when you're only chayiv when it's actually kein pnim. But a chagav, a grasshopper, is kein pnim. Okay, fine. Yeshakah. All right, so this is my last time giving the share. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for doing all that.
So yeah, it was really, really a pleasure.